All right, everyone, welcome back into another props video. Going to be breaking down all the top prop bets here for the LA Chargers versus Pittsburgh Steelers Sunday Night Football game. Let's go ahead and get into it. So, as always, I do typically like to start off with a quick game preview, but nothing really much to it, guys. This is a game total of 44.8 points on average, so really kind of a middle game there, not too high scoring, not too low scoring. Point spread as well, 2.5 point spread on average, so really nothing too crazy there. If we look at kind of the best bets list here as well. Oh, we are getting a plus EV bet here on DraftKings, guys. That is for the Chargers to cover at -3 points. I actually don't hate that. -102 on DraftKings. I think that's fine. I think I'd be okay with that. Now, you guys are hearing that and think the Steelers are going to win. Money line on DraftKings as well, plus 136. So some decent little bets there. So not terrible. Glad I went to this. So if you guys like either of those two bets, by all means, get there on DraftKings. Now, guys, if you watched my earlier video calling out the top prop bets for Week 10, you know that we had Aaron Rodgers at under 17.7 fantasy points on Underdog. That has since been dropped down to 15.5. So they corrected that line, but we are still getting Kamani Vidal as one of the better bets for his under fantasy score. So we're going to start there. And let's start with Kamani Vidal here, guys. So we see his Underdog lines at 11.45, which, given the average sportsbook line, would they project him to get closer to 8.2? And the projection data also agrees with that. This ends up being a very good under fantasy score bet for us on Underdog. Now, the issue with any under fantasy score bet is it's basically a bet on them not to score a touchdown. And so, as always, if you guys think one of these players are going to score a touchdown, then you wouldn't want to place the under fantasy score bet. And then another kind of interesting bet would be looking at Keenan Allen to get under his fantasy score. Now, I am more targeting a lot of the over bets for the Chargers, especially the pass catchers, but I do want to break this one down a little bit. So he only ended up with 37% of the snaps last week. Trey Harris actually ended up out snapping him. We did see, though, that Keenan Allen had 54% route share. He still ended up with 5 targets on the day as well. So it's not a bet that makes me feel comfortable, but if that is something, if that trend continues, then I think like this would end up being a bet where, like, yeah, he probably should end up getting the under. And really, looking at all the other bets I like more for traditional sports books, this bet actually ends up being a pretty solid edge for us there as well. So those are really the two bets that we're going to be looking at on Underdog for their under fantasy score specifically. But I do want to mention like DK Metcalf for under his fantasy score is a bet that you guys could look at. He is very much touchdown dependent, as we know. And then Warren as well, guys. Very much touchdown dependent. I am more inclined to get to his unders as well, but really in simple, guys, this is going to be my bets on Underdog is those 4 players for under their fantasy score. Hopefully none of them score a touchdown, which when I get into my PrizePicks bet slip, which is going to be more for traditional sports books, it does correlate a decent amount, which I always like to say is when we have bet slips that correlate, where we're betting on a lot of unders for these players, and then the other players we're going to be betting on their overs, it does increase the likelihood for them both to end up missing. But we're doing that on purpose because I think that's where the edges are. So as always, if you guys disagree, you guys can always do the opposite or just feel the need not to place the bet at all with a specific player that you disagree with. And so here's the bet of the day here for Underdog, guys, just to get it with the official graphic and slide here. And so we'll move on in here to the PrizePicks and kind of traditional sportsbook bets. So if you guys disagree with me about Jaylen Warren and his under fantasy score, it is worth calling out. You can bet on him to get over 2.5 receptions. This one has a 53.4% likelihood for it to hit on PrizePicks, guys. We rarely get that on a single game slate like that for a normal bet, a standard kind of bet like that. And so I think that's a bet we probably should just be making. Now, that wasn't originally a bet that really stood out to me, but it is a bet that I did want to call it to you guys. 2 bets that I do end up liking getting to here are in regards to Calvin Austin, mostly to get over 2.5 receptions, guys, but I'm fine betting him to get over 3 receptions. I do see this game as a game in which the Chargers are going to win. I do hesitate to say that because I don't know, the Chargers tend to let teams stay in it. I just like the matchups with their receivers and quarterback better than any matchup that we're getting for the Steelers offensively, the other way. And so that's why I like the Chargers more. And if that ends up happening where the Chargers are winning, that should lead to a little bit more of a pass-heavy script for the Steelers, which would end up making Calvin Austin a little bit more appealing, guys. He is someone that was limited snap-wise, only 56% of the snaps last week, but he had a 66% route share. So that is something that could end up going up a little bit. Maybe not the route share, but the snaps, maybe. I mean, route share could go up to 70, but he still ended up with 6 targets, 5 receptions, 56 receiving yards. And so that could end up being a good spot for us. I do like it, guys. I think there's a good chance that he does end up gaining 3 receptions. Aaron Rodgers does like him. And then it is a little bit of a guessing game as to which tight end is going to be the most involved. Last week, guys, Darnell Washington, in a game where the Steelers were playing with the lead, he had 67% of the snaps, but only 34% route share. And then Pat Freiermuth and Jonnu Smith basically split the work, guys. Freiermuth, 46% of the snaps, Jonnu Smith, 41%. Route share for Pat Freiermuth was 50%, ended up with 4 targets. Jonnu Smith, 42% route share, 5 targets. So the work is pretty much getting split among them all. You could end up betting on all of their over receptions if you want to. I think the best one, though, is Pat Freiermuth for over 2.5 receptions, mostly because Jonnu Smith is at 3 receptions. Okay, on PrizePicks, if you guys want to take a reduced payout and bet on Smith to get over 2.5 receptions, I'm fine with that there as well. Both ended up being better bets, but for PrizePicks specifically, I like Pat Freiermuth for over his 2.5 receptions. Now, it is worth calling out, guys, this is basically a 50-50 split. So Vegas sees this as basically a toss-up. Now, let's go ahead and get into the LA Chargers pass catchers, guys, and let's start with Quentin Johnston. So I do like him to get over 3.5 receptions. I was actually a little bit shocked at this line that we are getting for him. I feel like it should be at least at 4. I would argue maybe 4.5, where they are heavily favoring the under, would be a better line for him. But I think there's a great chance that he does end up getting 4 receptions. And I mean, he has gotten this over in basically every single game except for that Colts game, which, you know, in hindsight, just kind of ends up seeming like a kind of random game there. Johnston is still getting a lot of snaps, guys. 71% of the snaps on the team, 68% last week. Against Minnesota, only 53%. But other than that, has just been getting a bunch of snaps, which we like. So that role is firmly there for him, as we would kind of come to expect at this point of the season. But really what we're chasing here is the matchup here with the Steelers, guys. The Steelers are the worst pass defense against opposing receivers and basically quarterbacks as well, giving up an average of 5.4 receptions to opposing receivers per receiver. Okay, 65.5 receiving yards as well, if that's a bet that you guys like a little bit more. But this ends up being a very good bet for us. Now, if you want to get to Keenan Allen instead, you could. But I am worried about the snap counts for Keenan. And so I'm just going to go with Johnston there because I feel like his snaps should be secure. And like, this is the line that we're getting for Gadsden. I do like the over for him as well, over 4.5 receptions, but it's a little bit tighter. Like, to me, Johnston should be at 4 receptions. And maybe if he was at 4.5, we'd think about betting the under. I am a little bit hesitant to get to Gadsden as well, but he has gotten the over in 4 straight games. He is firmly involved in the game plan here for the Chargers. He ended up getting 80% of the snaps in the last game, guys. And an 89% route share, 5 targets, 5 catches, 68 receiving yards, and he is basically being used as a receiver. So again, those receiving stats, 5.4 receptions per receiver, and even tight end wise, they're giving up a lot of production to them as well. So I think this ends up being a good bet. And then Ladd McConkey I can get to as well. His targets have been up more recently, 7 targets in the last game, guys. I am a little bit more hesitant to get to him because the Chargers do tend to spread out a lot of the production. Like, it couldn't be more of a Keenan Allen game. And so I did this in order of like the ones I like the most. So Johnston, then Gadsden, then Ladd McConkey, because this line is a little bit too high, but I do think there is still a decent edge there overall. And so I don't mind it. And then we do need to talk about Justin Herbert as well, guys. So the Steelers do give up, again, a lot of production to opposing quarterbacks and receivers. On average, they give up 27 pass completions to opposing quarterbacks. And I think that ends up being a pretty good spot for us. Longest reception, I actually don't mind. His overpassing yard is not terrible as well. So on average, the Steelers are giving up 299.5. And I think this ends up being a pretty good spot for us as well, for him to get over his pass yards. So either one of those I'm fine with. If you just want to like punt and do his over fantasy score, you could, but you would specifically want to do that on PrizePicks. But with it being such a high line, 19.5, I think I just would end up wanting to get to his over passing yards. And I do want to call it Kamani Vidal, guys. If you think you don't want to bet on his under for his fantasy score on Underdog, I get that. I actually wouldn't mind doing his over 13 rush attempts. The snaps were still there. The production just wasn't. In the last game, guys, he had 72% of the snaps, still had 12 rush attempts. And so if he still gets that same snap share, he should be able to get this over, or at least for it to be a push. And that's only in regards to if you don't think he's going to have a good day, or sorry, if you don't want to bet on his under fantasy score on Underdog. This would be a different bet that you could get to then as a result. And so this is what I'm looking at for the bet of the day on PrizePicks, and more so on traditional sportsbooks as well. I do think this is a solid little 5 slip bet. Again, little bit hesitant with Ladd McConkey, 5.5 receptions, but that is the weak spot in the Steelers defense, so I'm fine attacking it there. Now, that being said, guys, I do like the Justin Herbert bet, but as you guys know, if you guys are some of that bet specifically on PrizePicks, including this, would drastically reduce the payout to the point where it's not even really worth placing in there. So you kind of could pick and choose that. If you want to do Herbert over his passing yards and then do these two Steelers ones as well, you could do that instead. And so, guys, that's going to do it for this video. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you guys would like access to the PrizePicks Optimizer, Underdog Optimizer, or all the tools that are available on 95sports.com, head on over there, get access to all the tools for a low monthly cost of $10 a month. Appreciate you guys being here. Good luck with all the bets for tonight and Monday night as well. Catch you guys on the Monday night props betting video. All right, thanks for watching. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.